I'm Ashton Addison from EventChain for Investment Pitch Media and the Crypto Coin Show. And today on Blockchain Interviews, we have Eric Loit, the Managing Director of the ESP Project. Eric, welcome to the show, and thank you so much for taking the time to be here today.
Thanks, Ashton. It's a pleasure to be here.
I'm really excited to dive into ESP. I think your team's working on initiatives in a few different sectors that I'm excited to dive into. So if you could just kick it off for us, first of all, with a high-level overview of the ESP project and some of those initiatives, then we could dive into the details.
Certainly. Well, it really started off where we've been actively creating digital platforms in the educational space. And when we're bringing that platform to fruition, we really cited the need to have an internal payment mechanism. And this is what really was the original genesis for ESP. And along with that, we were able to work in partnership with some other groups that had the same needs, and that was in the renewable energy sector. So really what we've decided to do is come out with our own utility token called ESP, and that is going to be the value transfer mechanism for making these different closed systems work. So they're each individual ecosystems.
That's great to hear. And yeah, definitely the education front could use a evolution. And I think blockchain and cryptocurrency will be a great step forward, integrating that into the platform for all scholars to have more benefits in that area. Can you talk more specifically about some of those initiatives in the education sector and some of the frictions in the industry that you really are pinpointing and solving?
Absolutely. Great question. So where we started off was that there was a real need to have basically a platform as a student information management system. So we're connecting parents, teachers, and students together, getting your daily activities, lesson plans, attendance management. But then the parents also wanted the ability to pay tuition fees, buy books, provide lunch money, things like field trips. And it was really necessary to have something that worked within one window, right? So bringing this all together, we wanted to have a platform. And, part of the problems with being in a developing, like we're going to launch in the developing world, is that many parents are unbanked. They don't have a bank account. So doing electronic transfers through some standardized mode of payment just doesn't exist. But they all have cell phones. So being able to use a cell phone and a digital wallet to move a token from A to B was just a natural fit for the platform. So this was one aspect. Then the other aspect is actually on the content delivery side. We wanted to have the token utilized in a fashion where the content consumers would pay with the token. But at the same time, if they're being exposed to advertisements or paid placements, they can actually earn tokens while they watch that content. So in essence, they have the ability to earn tokens and then spend those tokens on the content that they want to use, making that content virtually free, right? And then if you broaden out that ecosystem, you have the ability to then reward the content providers with payments and tokens, as well as advertisers coming into the platform would pay in tokens. So it just made it very easy. And for us being international based, we didn't have to worry so much about borders and exchanges. Basically, in each country, they would deal with their own KYC process, their own fiat to crypto exchange locally, and then be able to use the platform anywhere in the world. So the exchanges really fill an important role for us in terms of the FX side of things.
Definitely, yeah. The on-ramping and off-ramping and the liquidity of that is going to be super important. And you mentioned there, there's so many different factors in the school system that could be changed and upgraded through ESP and through using blockchain. But I've noticed that traditionally, in the developed worlds, the school systems are using architectures that they're pretty set in their ways. They've been around for decades. And it's hard to change those industries that are using, although it is antiquated technology most of the time, to get them to change to something that's actually really innovative and going to benefit them more. But you did speak about first getting it into developing worlds. And we've seen with internet and cell phone technology that these developing countries that are mainly unbanked, as you said, seem to skip that traditional architecture and now are moving ahead because they don't have to try to change what they already have. They can just move right into this innovative technology, can actually skip ahead of the developed worlds and start using the technology with less barriers to entry, which is really exciting. So I would love to hear about where specifically you're focusing these efforts first and how you're going to penetrate into those markets.
Excellent question. You actually understand it very well. I think one of the biggest barriers to acceptance is, especially on the school level, is cost. School boards around the world, it doesn't matter if you're in North America or in Asia, cost is a huge barrier. So what we're looking at the token to provide is, that lower cost of transaction, and you don't have to deal with payment gateways and, all these specialized setups in order to make that process work. So if we create an ecosystem that has the various apps already connected through the token, it's very easy to pass that along. And if you do it in a off-chain or side-chain kind of combination, then you can virtually make the transfer tokens free. So our initial target is actually in Vietnam. And the reason for that is it's a fair-sized country, over 90 million people, about 21 million students. And for a new startup in the education space, it's pretty hard to break in at the municipal level with a brand new product. But the nice thing in Vietnam is that we have many private schools. So we can start with a handful, grow organically, basically prove the platform, and then really bring it internationally. I have also some agreements in the UAE to bring it in at the municipal level as well. So, once we get that kind of traction, then places like Europe and North America are natural add-ons for us. But Vietnam for the next 12 months is really the target. Ultimately, the big crown jewel is India with over 330 million students. Mm-hmm. So we've created a platform that is very, very low cost. Think about the cost of a cup of coffee per student per year to run the platform, right? So whether the municipality, and we don't expect ever for the students or parents to pay for this, though they might pay through it through tuition fees or whatnot, but it wouldn't be a direct charge and we wouldn't be collecting from them. Really, we want to have the municipalities fund that kind of activity.
Definitely, that's great to hear.
It makes it,
in Vietnam specifically, I actually did speak at some tech conferences in Vietnam and across Asia, and I noticed in Vietnam that not only the students but the older generations as well seem to be very focused on tech. And I might be biased because I was at tech conferences, but it seemed overall like they were very open to innovation and utilizing technologies that are going to benefit them.
You're absolutely correct. They're a real innovative country. They're accepting new technologies. They're growing crazy. And so the time is really right now to enter Vietnam, not just with technology, but it is really a developing nation that's on its path. And we've seen a lot of growth, and they've got the right attitude as well. Every school that you go talk to, and I've spent the better part of 3 years now canvassing the market to understand that we have a good direction, and everybody is just waiting. Get it to us, bring it online as quick as you can, because we really need this. Mm-hmm. And if I can positively impact the student experience, where parents are more involved with the educational process, the expectation is that we can raise the grades of the students. So
Definitely.
That's primarily where we're focused.
Definitely, and obviously that would be a great underlying benefit and one of the main points of creating a better quality of education for those that are using the platform. Now, you also mentioned at the beginning that you have your hands in a few different pots, and renewable energy and solar energy specifically also is tied into the platform. Now, I wanted to cover all the bases with the ESP project because you are focused on a few initiatives. Maybe you could touch on how that's involved in the project and how it relates to the whole initiative.
Sure. So we have partnerships on the deployment of solar projects at the residential level. So really one of the problems on the resident side is, the whole process of, getting a design done, then getting a quote, then getting financing for it, either through a bank or whatnot. Usually it's for 20 years or this type of thing. Getting an approval, just the time and expense of getting that done is very elongated. So really what we're looking at trying to do is convert this all into a smart contract, basically, where we're getting using DeFi on the financing side, as long as that we have a way to secure the project, so define the security for the project for the receivable, get that into the blockchain, and then it manages. So on a monthly basis, the payments are made again in coin or in tokens in our case, and run that process. So if there's a default, then there's automatic actions that the contract can take, right? And part of the challenges there is to make sure that we're not so rigid that, oh, you didn't pay, we cut you off, or we execute on collecting on a security. It's not like that. So we have to kind of have a couple of different levels built into the contract. And so that's the work that's being done now, is really on how do we secure the asset for the receivable, how that is actually defined and then approved through a decentralized fashion, right? Because we really don't want a central point that ends up being the gatekeeper of everything, right? So if we have through the network a number of people that can actually approve that this is secure, then it can allow them the flow of funds to the project. So we're in that definition phase now. And there's some nuances to where that happens, and of course it's very locally driven. Now we're a little bit more focused in North America for that side of it, because that's where, especially in the United States, there's a new push from the Biden administration for renewable energies, right, infrastructure and that type of thing. So we think that the opportunity there exists to help scale an existing operation with a number of projects and just help them scale, because we're giving, some ease, I guess, convenience in terms of making that all happen for the homeowner. So it becomes a very simple process.
Definitely. And I think sort of hitting the nail on the head with both of these initiatives is lowering cost. And you mentioned at the very beginning, having those payment channels for on-ramps, off-ramps, ease of payments and liquidity. And sort of tying both of those initiatives together is the ESP token itself. And you mentioned there using DeFi to help with the solar industry as well. So I'm interested to hear more about that. Maybe you could touch on the ESP token, how it is specifically used throughout all of these initiatives that you're working on, and if there's anything else that we didn't talk about yet in terms of its functionality and how it brings value to the ecosystem.
Certainly. Well, the token itself, we've made it in such a way that it doesn't carry, a huge transaction tax. We have a 1% tax that's in there that will reduce the overall supply to a fixed 50 billion coins. Again, I keep saying coins because originally this was a coin thing, but it's ERC20 token. Mm-hmm. And that, we're not going to be adding, there's not going to be a dilution by adding new coins. So we've minted the coins now, and that's it, right? So it's a fixed supply. So we want to make sure that it remains relatively stable. We don't want to see, we brought out another 50% of supply and that's killed the market or anything, because really when we're using this for payments and transfer of value for its utility, huge fluctuations in price is a problem, right? Because ultimately the token will have to be converted to a fiat currency, and it really needs to be somewhat stable, right? So we've built in some metrics, or not metrics, but some capability into the coin itself to manage that. Now, on the outside of the token, we have policy against, how we provide liquidity to the market, such that we always are very sensitive to the public about what's happening in terms of, big movements in the price of the token. So we're going to actively try to manage that to our best of our ability. Obviously, in a free market, the token will do what it's doing. But I think a couple of key differences between the token and other projects that are out there is that a lot of those projects are based basically on hype, or the echo of somebody else speaking, who's adjusting where it's impacting the value of the token. Whereas these operational businesses are actually putting liquidity in terms of actual fiat currency back into the Coinbase, right? Supporting it that way. And so I think, from a token holder, they're going to be satisfied that there's a real business behind the project. They're putting money into the Coinbase that's to the benefit of all the token holders. So I think that's one of the big key differences that you see with the ESP project against others.
Definitely, Eric, and I think that's a great point. And I can imagine students and more specifically parents don't want to have to worry about volatility when they're paying their students' tuition or bills or whatever else they may be using the payment network for. So I'm glad that your team is focused on that as a part of the system as well. Now, we don't have a lot of time, but I want to look forward with the ESP project, and maybe you can talk about some of the main focuses for the rest of 2021 and beyond in what your team is looking to achieve and bring out to the platform.
Okay, great. Well, first of all, we've just minted the tokens, and actually have some for, basically for a donation. You can get some off the website, but really the next step is to get it onto exchanges, and then really is moving away from the token is now focused on the actual business development, getting the platforms out. So we have about I'd say a 16-week lead time for getting the what we call our School Connect platform out, and that's really going to be the first one using the token in its own closed ecosystem. The second content delivery platform that we have is called Talk to Expert. And it's kind of like a master class type of thing, but with substantially lower fees. Again, the coin paying consumers of content if they're watching advertisements or place content, but also providing a lot of educational content, which they will then use the coin to pay for. So we want that out also in the next about 18 weeks for that one. So we've got those two parallel projects. And then the third thing is, what I mentioned before on the renewable energy side is really the, getting that whole structure in place. We could directly invest in a number of different individual solar projects, but that doesn't give us scale. Where we really want to get the scale is leveraging the DeFi side of things, right? Because then that brings additional liquidity into the ecosystem, and it gets used and focused specifically on the projects that people want to be involved in. So I think those three things, say over between now and really Q4, is really our primary focus. So there's been a lot of talk, I think, over the last 6 or 8 weeks, solely about the token, and really that's a small component to a much bigger picture. And it's really where our focus is on the business activity of on the education and renewable energy space.
Mm-hmm. Great, thanks, Eric. And for the viewers that are looking to follow along with those initiatives as they roll out and learn more about the ESP project and the token, what's the best way for them to learn more and to get involved in the community?
Thanks for asking that. The best place is really off the website, so espcoin.io. All our social links are there, right? So you can get to Telegram or Facebook or Twitter. Telegram seems to be the most active, but certainly we'll be posting a lot of information on the site, and also the activity on the coin. We're pretty transparent. We'll talk about where we're burning coins. Our regular, we'll have a coin buyback, and this is the liquidity coming back into the Coinbase. We do that. We'll start that on a monthly basis in Q3, and we'll list exactly how much is on there, how much we're buying back, and show the transaction. We obviously are not going to broadcast exactly when or how much, because again, that can influence the market. We will do that in secret and then report afterwards. But that, yeah, definitely the website's the best place to start. But we have a very active Telegram community, so it's please join that, and you see lots of information happening there multiple times a day.
Great, Eric. Thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show. I will leave all those links in the description box below as well. All the best with ESP moving forward, and let's follow up in the near future.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Ashton. Really appreciate it.